The second passage is more fun than a barrel of monkeys. And if there's anything fun in the world, it's a barrel of monkeys. Oh, dear heavens. All right, so what we've got is a passage describing how normally we think of ourselves as knowing our own minds, that we don't have to infer what we're thinking, we just think what we're thinking. But there's some research with children that suggests maybe we don't directly know our own thoughts any more than we directly know the thoughts of other people. We infer other people's thoughts from their actions and their cues, right? And according to this passage, we also infer our own thoughts from, in the last paragraph, cognitive activity that is not itself thought. For example, fleeting and instantaneous sensations and emotions. So, according to this passage, we don't actually know what we're thinking. We guess at what we're thinking based on the kinds of feelings and interactions we have. All right. So, and then the second paragraph gives us this long example about how that's kind of like what happens when you become an expert at something. Like you have a change in the way you relate to that topic. And that certainly seemed very true to me. You know, my experience of this test material is very different from people who are coming to it for the first time. And I kind of can understand that, you know. Maybe it's the same sort of thing. I am an expert at my own mind, for sure. And so maybe I think that I have a relationship to it that is totally intuitive and infallible and known, but is actually just based on long experience of identifying my emotions and inferring from them the thought processes that went along with them. And in any case, question 8, the main point of the passage is that these psychologists have claimed, and this author seems to believe them, that our own thought processes are not directly experienced, but are instead inferred. I might point to what she says at the end of the first paragraph. In opposition to the common belief, some psychologists argue that some people infer what their own thoughts are. And notice how that sums up the content of the passage. That's what you want from the right answer to the main point question. For number 9, answer choice C really attacks the psychologist's position because it's based on, their whole experiment is based on getting children to say what they're thinking, and then they say, in line 8, the children tend to misdescribe their own thoughts. In line 12, that the children are much less capable of identifying those thoughts. Maybe they're misdescribing them because they're not capable of identifying what those thoughts are. Maybe children really don't experience their own thoughts directly and infallibly. But if answer choice C is true, and children just can't communicate their thoughts, then the fact that they have misdescribed their thoughts doesn't mean that they don't know what their thoughts are. It just means that they have a hard time expressing to somebody what their thoughts are. Answer choice C locates the source of the confusion not within the children's own mind, but in the interaction with the researchers. And in that way, it really challenges the psychologist's claim that the children screw up because they don't know what they're thinking. For question 10, we know that the author believes that the idea of basing our inferences about what we're thinking on observations of our own behavior is intellectually indefensible. We know this because she says the psychologists have come perilously close to claiming. Why would it be dangerous to claim something? It would be dangerous to claim something if that claim were not strongly defensible. Because they have made this perilous journey towards a claim, and then the author is careful to tell us that they did not in fact commit themselves to that perilous claim, we know that that claim is not a strong claim. If it were a strong claim, why would she describe their approach to that claim as being perilous? It's dangerous because the claim is not defensible. For question 11, in answer choice A, the anthropologist has a problem describing her culture. I'm sorry, it's a male anthropologist describing his culture because he's too familiar with it. He takes it for granted. His surroundings are taken for granted. And notice how that exactly mirrors the end of the second paragraph, line 35. We become so expert in making incredibly fast introspective inferences about our thinking, we fail to notice that we're making them. We've done it so often, we don't even notice that we're doing. We take ourselves for granted in the same way that the anthropologist takes his culture for granted. It becomes then difficult for us to describe what we're doing because we're taking it for granted, in the same way that the anthropologist can't describe because he's taken it for granted. And that kind of mirroring effect is how you know that you have the right answer. For question 12, we know that you get a substantively different way of understanding relations within that field simply because the author plain flat told us, I'm in line 30, when we're experts, it appears that we become able to see and to grasp these entities and their relations directly, whereas before we could only make inferences about them. So there is a change, a massive change in our interaction with the relationships of the subject of our expertise. We begin to grasp those relations directly. Before, we just had to infer what they were. A substantially different way of understanding relations. It's in the passage. That's how it's the answer. For 13, the reason, according to the author, that we believe we are directly experiencing rather than inferring our own thoughts is the same stuff we were just talking about. I mean, at the end of that second paragraph, it's incredibly fast. They're so fast that we fail to notice in line 37. We fail to notice that we're making them. We don't even recognize that we're making these inferences about our own thoughts. See, we're unaware of the processes that allow us to become aware of our own thoughts. It's what the passage says. And there's always, always your template for a right answer. What did the author say in the passage? For question 14, we infer why we use the children to determine that as people we infer our own thoughts from the fact that the very basis for this whole claim derives from the idea that the children misidentified their own thoughts. An adult would not misidentify her own thoughts, right? Or at least it's very difficult to imagine her doing so. The fact that the children are prone to that kind of error leads to the possibility of the whole study in the first place. If they weren't likely to misidentify their own thoughts, we wouldn't have anything in this passage to deal with. So the advantage to the psychologist is that the children might make the kind of errors that adults wouldn't be likely to make, and there's your answer choice D. And that's the end of this second passage. So here's the deal with these free videos. They're intended to serve a very narrow purpose. For those times when you're wondering, why is that the right answer? You can just come here for a complete library and find out why it was the right answer. And I hope that you'll find that it was very instructive. Of course, the other part of the deal is that since LSAC publishes all of their tests along with test keys, that means that there's no barrier to entry for test prep. And you can hear the air quotes, I hope. Anybody can, and lots of people have, set up shop and call themselves test prep companies, and they've got the questions, they've got the answer keys, and they just try to explain to you why the right answer is right. And then they charge you money for it? That is wrong. I want to put a stop to it. I want to sweep the legs right out from under them. It is bad for you. It's bad for me too. So if you want to know what the right answer is and why the right answer is right, I want you to be able to come here and find it out for free without paying anybody for it. That's very different from what I do in the paid course. What I think has value about what I do is that I can tell you ahead of time what every question wants from you, what to expect from the right answer, how to formulate a right answer, and then how you can expect wrong answers to sound, so that you know before you ever open up a test book exactly what to expect. And all the practice videos that are part of the paid course are just me putting that theory into practice. It's just the rubber meeting the road. In other words, I'm going to show you based on what we've done before how we're going to react when it comes up next time. And that bit, knowing what to do the next time you see something, that I think is worth paying for. And if you agree, I'd love to have you in the course. And if not, that's fine too. Don't pay anybody to explain why right answers are right. Just watch these for free. Enjoy.